Hello everybody, today we are going to speak on shadows. Our text is taken from the book of Psalm chapter 91 verse 1, and it says, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall remain stable and fixed under the shadow of the Almighty, whose power no foe can withstand." I'm reading from the Amplified Version. When we say shadow, what do we mean by shadow? The Hebrew word for shadow is salah. It means shade, defense, protection, shelter. And the Greek word for shadow is kia. It's used when you're talking of shade, thick darkness, or an outline. The shadow of a looming presence, a spiritual reality, good or bad, relating to God's light or spiritual darkness. Number one, shadow is caused by the interception of light or an image cast by an object representing the form of that object. That's your image. So that verse is talking of being under the shadow of God Almighty. So when you are under the shadow of God Almighty, you're one with God. When an artist draws an object, they usually add an outline to enhance or project that object, therefore making that object pronounced. Somebody can see the object from afar. The shadow of the Almighty becomes your outline. Shadows also appear in the darkness. It doesn't mean that the shadow is not present during the day. The shadow comes out and shows itself when necessary. Then when a shadow appears at night, a cat is passing by, you see the shadow of the cat first before you see the cat. Somebody is passing by, you see the shadow of the person first before you see the person. This explains how God's shadow protects us before anything appears to us, because whatever evil is coming your way, it has to meet the shadow of God first before it comes to you. When the light source is in front of a person, you see the shadow at the back. And when the light source is at the back of a person, you see the shadow in front. Who or what is the light source? The light source is God Almighty. The light source present in our lives is God Almighty. Psalm 139 verse 5 describes it well. It says, "You have beset me and shut me in, behind and before, and you have laid your hands upon me." That's God has beset us. He has shut us in, behind us and in front of us, and he has laid his hands upon us. Another thing a shadow does is to follow your movement as a direct result of the light source being upon you, as a direct result of your position relative to the light source. You become in sync with your light source. When you move your hands, the shadow moves at the same time. Your shadow becomes connected to your actions and presence. It's the same thing with God. When God's shadow is with you, you no longer need your shadow, you no longer see your shadow, because you have become one with God. Your shadow hides inside God. So it might be your form, it might be taking your form, but one who has eyes spiritually, when the enemy comes to attack you, is going to see God with you. He's going to see the shadow of God with you, and you move in sync with God. This is where one with God is majority comes in play. God's shadow become your shade, your defense, your protection, your outline, your shelter, your guide, your guard, and your embodiment.